Hey guys, it's Al with techmadeezy, and thank you so much for clicking on our video. Well guys, this is going to be a super detailed comparison on these three power stations, and we're going to have timestamps in the video description. As you can see, we've got the Delta Pro, we've got the Delta Pro Ultra, and we've got the Delta Pro 3 that just came out. And you know what? These machines are different in a lot of ways. Now, again, timestamps in the description. We're going to go over use examples. We're going to go over design, solar, UPS, and EPS. We're going to give you detailed specs on these guys. Ways to charge. A power comparison. It's going to be very interesting. EV charging. Expansion. A close look at the batteries, because let me tell you, the batteries have evolved. And again, that could be one of the reasons why you buy one over the other. We're going to do a home backup comparison. We're going to go over the accessories available for these machines. We're going to talk about 240 volt. And we're going to also talk about important things to think about before you spend your money. Again, timestamps in the description. But let's go ahead and get this party started. Hi, this is Al from techmadeezy with a really quick message. The video you're about to watch is sponsored. We received this product from the vendor. But keep in mind, we will be very honest with you as we review the product. That is very important to us. If you like our video, I sure hope you give us a thumbs up. I hope you share our video. And last, I really hope you subscribe and become a part of the family. Thank you. Please keep in mind, this is a very detailed video going over all of the features of these power stations. Use the timestamps in the description. Here is a slide on what I'm going to be covering. You can go ahead and hit pause and review it. I might add more also, so just keep in mind. Don't forget, there's going to be timestamps in the description if you want to move around a little bit. But let's go ahead and get this started. Let's go ahead and talk about costs and pricing. So I'm going to start off with the Delta Pro. MSRP on the Delta Pro is $3,699, but because it's been around a while, it's on sale most of the time, anywhere from $2,200 to $2,800, okay? Now the add-on battery for the Delta Pro, MSRP is $2,799, but again, that's on sale. I'm seeing it anywhere from $1,500 to $1,800 for the add-on battery for the Delta Pro. Now let's go over to the Delta Pro 3 right over here. This guy just came out. The Delta Pro 3 is $3,699. Now I think there's going to be some sale prices, okay? And again, we're going to have links in the description for all this, but $3,699. And the add-on battery is $2,599. Now, you can add 2 batteries to the Delta Pro, and you can add 2 batteries to the Delta Pro 3. Again, we're going to go over expansion later, and we're going to go over home backup later, and you're going to see how far you can actually expand all of these for home backup. Let's talk about the Delta Pro Ultra now. So the Delta Pro Ultra is 2 pieces. The top piece is an inverter. All right. The inverter is $2,799. All right. And the add-on battery is $3,299. But this set sells for about $6,100 as far as that's concerned. Again, we're going to go over expansion, and we're going to go over home backup, and then you're going to be able to see how much more these can cost as you add more batteries. I'm going to take a moment and talk to you a little bit about uses, but I'll tell you now they are very similar. The Delta Pro Ultra is going to stand in a league of its own, just so you'll know. This is really more home backup than anything else. But let's talk about the Delta Pro. So the Delta Pro is portable, right? It's got wheels, it's got a handle, So it is portable, it's expandable. You can use this for home backup, which is nice. but that's going to be more expandable, and that's going to be more expandable. You can connect that to an inlet or a transfer switch. You can connect it to a smart home panel by EcoFlow. It's also compatible with the new Smart Home Panel 2. You can use this in an RV. You can use that in a van. It's great for a business backup as well. Now let's talk about the Delta Pro 3. So, again, the Delta Pro 3 is portable, it's expandable, and again, you can use it as home backup. Same thing, you can connect it to an inlet, a transfer switch, and it is compatible with the Smart Home Panel 2 only, not the 1. Great for an RV, van life, and again, good for business backup. Now, here's where things change when we talk about the Ultra. So this is not as portable because it is super heavy. You're talking over 200 pounds. And we'll talk about weight and specs later on. It's expandable, and it can be home backup. It can be, a large business backup. You can connect it to an inlet, a transfer switch. It is also compatible with the Smart Home Panel 2. You can take this to an RV. It might be too big for van. If you're in a van, this is probably going to be too big and way too heavy. But again, you can use this for a large business backup. It definitely will need more room, and you'll see this. As we go over expansion, you're going to see this. So I hope that helped a little bit. Next up, we are now going to talk a little bit about design. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the batteries for the Delta Pro 3 and the Delta Pro and just talk a little bit about design. All right, so I've got the extra batteries so you can see what you're dealing with for now. So as you can see on the Delta Pro, the battery is the same size. It takes up the same amount of space. They both have handles on the bottom. We're going to take a close look in a second. They both have wheels on the back. Now the Delta Pro Ultra obviously has the dolly. They also have another trolley. I'll show you later. It's an accessory you can buy. Makes it a little bit more portable, but let me just tell you, you have to be a lumberjack. I'm not a lumberjack. I sound like one. And now we look at the Delta Pro 3, right? And as you can see here, they made the battery small and stackable. So as you can see here, the battery sits right on top, and it's the same capacity battery that's inside the Pro 3 is right up there. And again, we're going to go over batteries, capacity, expansion, everything. But look at that. Now you can put 2 batteries on top of the Delta Pro 3. That is really nice, to tell you the truth. Again, a couple more upgrades for sure coming from a Delta Pro. Definitely. So these two are more similar, but this is a huge upgrade. All right. So let me zoom back out. And now what we're going to do is just take a close look at the Pro. We'll take a close look at the Pro 3, and then I'll take a close look at the Ultra. Again, this is just more for design. Let's go ahead and focus on the Delta Pro. So as you can see, the battery and the Delta Pro both have this handle that comes out, and it is really strong. All right, we'll take a look at the bottom so you could see, but I've never had an issue since it launched. So it's made very well. It basically locks inside. You press the button, pops out. You got a couple of locking points, but this thing comes all the way out, first of all. You've got good wheels, right? So this thing, you can definitely pull this thing around if you need to. If we look at the Delta Pro, you've got your outlets in the front, right? Again, we're going to go over all the outlets and stuff, but I'm just showing you more design-wise. So your screen, your outlets in the front. You also have access to more outlets here on the panel on the side, okay? And then you close that up. This is the Xfinity port. That's where you connect it to an EV charger or a smart home panel. And then let me turn this around and take a look at the back. All right, here is the Delta Pro. This is the battery, and it's got a battery port. That's how it connects. And then here's the Delta Pro. So that's the battery, that's the Pro. You can see here you've got 2 battery ports. And then here you have a panel that'll give you your overload protection. And let me see if I can zoom in so you can see a little more of that. So on here, your overload protection. You've got your AC plug plugs in here. Here's a switch, so you can either have it fast charge if it's up, or if you drop it down, you can slow and customize it. So you could just leave it on here and just boost it all the way up to the highest speed or lower, so you don't have to hit the switch. That's what I do. And then you have an XT60. That's for solar, for car charging, stuff like that. Now, what I want to show you real quick as a part of design is something that I think almost every Delta Pro user didn't like about the Delta Pro. Not only that it took up double the space, but let me show you. There it is, the dreaded Delta Pro cable. This thing just is so stiff and it takes up so much room, you know? But I will tell you there's some good news coming as we continue this video. Now this cable, just so you'll know, is actually up in this compartment over here. So when you get the extra battery and you're looking for your cable, it'll be in there. All right, so that's where the cable was. But you know, let me show you something. I'm going to connect this, and I hope I don't fumble while I do it. But I want to show you how odd this cable is, because it's so thick and it's not, you know, it just takes up so much room. Think about it. When you put this against a wall, it takes up all the room. So I'm going to connect this now. So let me plug in one side. And by the way, when you plug your battery, and you see here that it's got a battery clip. So ultimately you pull this up and then you let it go. It does take some pressure to plug it in, but you heard that click? It's in there now. And if you only have one battery, connect it to the battery port 1. That battery port, by the way, actually checks for upgrades, firmware upgrades. If you just connect this to battery port 2, it won't check for firmware upgrades. But look at that. Look how much room it takes up, right? So other than it being a phenomenal machine, it really is. This is a beast. But this was a pain. Now to release the battery, you just have to push this in and pull. And you kind of almost have to wiggle, to be honest with you. You got to be careful too, because again, a lot of plastic, a lot of metal, but you don't want to break the connectors. Let's take a look at the bottom real quick. I'll show you the handle. So that's what the bottom looks like. It's got a reinforced plate here. It's got another one there. It's got a rubber that sits on the ground, and it's got 2 more rubbers, as you could see, that sit on the ground. So, you know, that's kind of, it's built really well. I'll tell you, I've never had an issue. All right, and that is the Delta Pro. Let's move on to the Delta Pro 3. Here it is, the Delta Pro 3. I feel like I'm in a cockpit right now. Look at the display. They've updated the design of the display in comparison, right? It is larger. Now another thing that changed is the way air is circulated. So it's not circulated from left to right. It's actually circulated from front to back or back to front. I forgot which way. It is quieter, and you know, this definitely keeps it cooler. Now if you see here, and we didn't show this before, but the fans are basically here and they pass through the unit, but they pass through the top of the unit. So this actually does a better job cooling also. Now let's take a look at some ports. Before we look at ports again, I mean, look at the design of this thing. That is sleek, let me tell you. It definitely did a really nice job. And you can put another battery on top. It's made to support the weight, you know. So, I mean, look at the way they bow out the wheel. This thing's like a freight train, you know, like a real sleek freight train, I should say. Now, in the front, you've got your outlets, right? Again, we're going to go over outlets later. Again, you've got your fan coming through here. And then what they did is on the sides, they've got these magnet doors. that will, you know, you have ports on the right and you have ports on the left, and they just open and they close. This thing's kind of awkward sometimes, you know, it doesn't always, you know, you have to kind of tuck it in. It's just a system that they used, you know, so it's interesting, but very nice. And the battery's got a light in the front. Again, they got this design, and obviously I have a battery on top, but they've got this design on top as well. You really can't see too much. There it goes, along with some dust, but very, very sleek. All right, now again, looking at this side, very similar, and let's take a look at the back. All right, here's the back, and you've got battery port, and guess what? These actually slide in. You know, they don't dangle. They click in place, and then they slide in and they disappear. They're not in the way. And you got the same thing for the Delta. It slides right in. All right, again, you got more ports down here, and you can see 2 solar inputs. You got the AC in and out that comes with the Delta Pro Ultra. That is killer. And another battery expansion. But guess what? Let me show you the magic and a real nice update. So, you remember this cable? How do you not forget this cable, huh? This is the Delta Pro cable. I mean, you could beat someone with this. Please don't beat anyone. The world is in pain enough. But what about a cable like this? Look at this. Totally flexible cable. And this thing just snaps right in. Check this out. Let me zoom in a little more. You could see all you do is put this in, and it locks in place like that. And then let's get the bottom one, and it locks in place. That's it. And then this can be tucked away. It doesn't have to, you know what I mean? It can actually be tucked away, so it's not going to get in the way as much. I know it looks awkward, right? But isn't that something? I love it. I love it. Much better. Much better. You can put this in a tight corner. And think about it. When you push this back, you don't have a cable like with the Delta Pro. This cable was sticking out like this, you know, so you couldn't push it back anywhere. Isn't that nice? Really, really nice. And I'll take the phone off for a second. I want to show you something. Again, here's the wheels. Again, they're nice and dirty. But look at that design, man. Look at that design. Is that something? So, pretty cool. Now, to take the cable out, you just have to push this in and then just pull it out. It does take a little force to pull this out. I'll give you a close-up of the actual mechanism. Besides the connectors, this is the locking mechanism. So it does grab. Okay, so that's kind of what it looks like. And again, very, you know, takes a little bit of a push, locks in, and that's it. Here's the handle, by the way. You don't really know it's down here, but look at that. And it just says push. Pops right out. Again, nice and long. You know, it's just really super long. And the same handle, to my knowledge, as the Delta Pro. All right, kind of tucks in. You don't know it's there. If you look at like a Delta Pro, you could see that little gray. So again, it's very sleek. Very sleek. So here it is. This is the Ultra. And again, this is the top of the line, most powerful. But again, it might not meet your needs. This is really not portable when you're going over 200 pounds. And yes, I know you can take the inverter off and you can take the battery off, but you know, that's a lot of work. Now, as you can see, you've got a dolly on the bottom. All right, everything sits on the dolly. Later on in the accessories section, I'll show you they have a trolley. That's a heavy-duty trolley. But the one thing about this that's really nice is all of your outlets and ports are in the front. Nothing's in the back. You've got something on the sides, but for the most part, you've got everything in the front, right? You've got outlets here in the front. Now, these don't slide in, but they stay up, as you can see. So you've got all this in the front. You've got USB-A, USB-C, you got your power buttons up in front. You got a nice large screen, the biggest screen. Here's where you have cellular capability. You can go out and buy a 4G module. I'll show you that later on in the accessory section. And, you know, nothing on the left side, you know, just gonna, you know, just be your simple design. Nothing on the back, but I will tell you, this is the most quiet power station. This one is the quietest out of all of them. It has like 6 fans, and you know, so the Pro 3 is quieter than the Pro, but the Ultra is the quietest power station. It is amazing. All right, and so you know, you got really amazing fans in here, and the loads that this can run is just insane, and how expandable it is another thing. Now let's look at the right side, and you'll see you've got your solar here. You've got your power in and out. Again, this is used for, you know, smart home panel. It's used for EV charging. It's used for a bunch of stuff I'll go over later. As you can see here, you've got this cable, right, that basically connects the inverter to a battery. Let me show you something. So here's the battery cable, and then here's the power button for the battery, by the way, and this is the battery gauge. And this is another battery port. Why? Because you put another battery underneath the battery. So the inverter connects to a battery, and then the battery connects to a battery. As you can see here, there's a quick release on the top that'll let you take this and pull it off. Now they do have a turn key if you want to lock this, just to make it a little bit more difficult. I don't know, maybe you have a curious child, right? But what you're going to do is you're going to push this in and pull it out, and then you're going to do the same a little bit on the bottom, and there is your cable, right? And that mechanism, there it goes. All right, but easy to put on, easy to take off, out of the way. It's not taking up any room, so I push that in a little bit. I push this in a little bit. You hear that click? That click, this cable is now on. So nice system, really nice system. Again, beast, very powerful, very expandable, not made for everyone. So some things to think about before you spend money. Seriously, very important. I don't want to see you go out, spend your money, and be disappointed, number one. So you want to take a moment and really think about what you want to run when the power goes out, right? Think about that. Your lights, maybe charge your phones, maybe keep your refrigerator on so your food doesn't go bad, right? Your freezer, stuff like that. So that's okay. That's okay. Now, if you say to yourself you want to run your HVAC system, well, that's going to cost you. That's going to be pretty expensive, because that's going to be in home backup later on in the video, or expansion later on in the video. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this part here is I had a friend that bought a small power station. They spent like $100. And they were so upset that it couldn't make a cup of coffee, believe it or not. And so you can't think every power station will run everything and it will run it forever, because it won't, right? You know, no matter what, at the end of the day. So these are pretty powerful. But my Keurig K-Supreme Plus coffee maker uses up to 1,400 watts for about a minute. Think about that. So I would have to get a power station that would at least be like 1,500 watts just to make a cup of coffee, all right? So you can't spend $100 to get a 1,500 watt power station. So what I'm telling you is, number one, think about what you want to run, right, when the power goes out. Number two, how much power do they require? You got to know that. You have to find out before you spend your money. Number 3, do they have a surge? You know, some items, when you plug them in and you turn them on, like a circular saw, for instance, will surge real high in wattage and then come back down. A refrigerator has a compressor that kicks on. They could kick on at 600 watts, 700 watts. It depends on how old the refrigerator is. I actually have a really efficient new refrigerator, so I'm very happy with that. So again, number 1, what do you want to run? Number 2, how much power does it require? Number 3, does it have a surge? And the last thing you want to think about is, how long do I want to run these items? 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Why? Because you're going to need batteries. You see the add-on batteries? These guys here are batteries, and they will allow you to run things longer, which is really key. You know, think about it. TVs, routers, phones, freezers, fans, your lights, your computers. So take some time. Don't spend the money yet. Take some time. Make your list. And ask me some questions. I'll try my best to help you out too. We're going to talk power now. And we're going to talk surge. We're going to talk X-Boost. So we're going to start off with the Delta Pro. The Delta Pro can handle 3,600 watts. Think about that. There aren't many items in your home that require that. There are some that require more. Actually, an electric dryer. 5,500 watts for an electric dryer. Think about that. I did a test on that. So 3,600 watts. Surge, 7,200 watts for a few seconds. And then X-Boost, which is, it'll handle up to 4,500 watts. But be careful. Don't use X-Boost unless you know what you're doing. It's great for like heating devices, like a heated blanket or something like that. But I would leave it off. I actually burnt out a coffee maker using X-Boost because I had it on. I didn't realize it, so I had to throw out my coffee maker. So don't use X-Boost unless you really know about it. So again, 3,600 watts, 7,200 watts surge, X-Boost 4,500. Now what about the new Delta Pro 3? Now you got 4,000 watts with an 8,000 watt surge and 6,000 watts on X-Boost. Isn't that amazing? Now what about this guy, the Delta Pro Ultra? Well, first of all, the Delta Pro Ultra doesn't have X-Boost. It doesn't need it. It's super powerful. The Delta Pro Ultra runs 7,200 watts normally. And then it has a surge of 10,800 watts. Is that insane? 3,600 watts, 4,000 watts, and 7,200 watts. And again, we're going to talk more about how you can even get more power out of these power stations. Believe it or not, there are ways to do it. Let's continue and talk more about specs. So let's talk about pass-through charging. Now, what is pass-through charging? Well, basically, if I was charging the Delta Pro, the Ultra, or the Pro 3 via solar or via AC, right? If I plugged it into an outlet, I can still use it. I can power my TV, I can charge my laptop, my phones, I can even plug in a toaster. So while it's receiving power to fill up the battery, I can actually have power coming out of it. And that is what pass-through charging is. Now let's also talk about pure sine wave. Now, it is important that if you buy a power station, I would highly recommend getting a pure sine wave inverter. And the inverter is basically the AC outlets is connected to the inverter. So when I plug something into the AC outlets, if it's pure sine wave, it's going to be quiet. I'll give you an example, a fan. So if I plug a fan into the AC outlets of these power stations, it is going to be quiet. But there are non-pure sine wave inverters out there called like modified. If I plugged a fan into one of those, there would actually be a humming noise. If I plugged like a projector or a TV into a non-pure sine wave power station, well, it might have distortion on the screen. So make sure you get a pure sine wave inverter in your power station, and all three of these have that feature. Let's now talk about battery capacity. So some of these power stations have pretty big batteries. So the Delta Pro actually has a 3,600 watt hour battery in it. And that is considered 3.6 kilowatts, right? Now the Delta Pro 3 actually has 4,096 watt hours, okay, considered 4 kilowatt hours. And the Delta Pro Ultra has 6,144 watt hours. That's right, 6,144 watt hours. That's just that battery alone right there on the bottom, and you can add 5 more. Again, we're going to talk about home backup. We're going to talk about expansion coming up soon. Now, there are some differences with these batteries. So the Ultra and the Delta Pro 3 now have an EV grade lithium iron phosphate battery. The Delta Pro is lithium iron phosphate, but they don't categorize that as EV grade. So these are slightly better batteries in these two power stations. Now let's talk about cycles. And what is a cycle? A cycle is when you charge the battery up to 100% and it goes all the way down to 0. That would use 1 cycle. Everything has a cycle. Your iPhone has a cycle. Your Samsung Galaxy has a cycle. Your tablet has a cycle, right? There's a limit, 500 charges, 800 charges. So the Delta Pro has 3,500 cycles, and then it goes to 80% capacity. That means you have 80% of the battery left, which is amazing. Now, the Delta Pro 3 actually has 4,000 cycles now, and then it'll go to 80% capacity. These will last you for years, especially if you maintain them. I'll talk more about that later on in the video towards the end, because that's extremely important that you maintain the batteries. If you just let this sit at 0, or you let it sit at 100%, it is no good for the battery, and it could go bad and void your warranty. Now, let's get back on track. The Delta Pro Ultra is 3,500 cycles to 80%. So, Delta Pro, 3,500 cycles to 80%. Delta Pro Ultra, 3,500 cycles to 80%. Delta Pro 3, 4,000 cycles to 80%. There's some information on battery capacity. We're going to go ahead and talk about 240 volt. And besides talking about 240 volt and these power stations, we're going to also cover the outlets. I'm going to show you images and talk a little bit more about the outlets to help you. But let's start off with the Delta Pro. So out of the box, the Delta Pro won't be 240 volt. But these two are, right? The Delta Pro 3 and the Delta Pro Ultra. But how do you get the Delta Pro to do 240 volt? Well, here's one way, and I'll cover another way in a little while. So you can get 2 Delta Pros, and you can get a double voltage hub. And then you can actually have 240 volt. Now, we did a video, and that's the image right there. And we did a demonstration on running an electric dryer that used over 5,500 watts. But, it was a really nice demo. It was fun to do. So the video will be in the video description. But let's go ahead and now talk about the Delta Pro 3. So the interesting thing about the Delta Pro 3 is it actually has 2 ways you can actually do 240 volt. Now the Delta Pro Ultra has 1 way, which is interesting. So the Delta Pro 3, you have an L1430 outlet, and you also have a 6-20R outlet. So you've got 2 ways out of the box without even combining, 2 Delta Pro 3s, right? So 2 ways to do 240 volts. Now the Delta Pro Ultra has an L1430 also. It doesn't have a 6-20R, but it does have the L1430. Again, I'm going to show you images and talk more about these outlets a little later on, but let's continue. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about not only 240 volts, but what about 50 amp, right? How do I get 50 amp? Now, you're not going to get 50 amp out of the Delta Pro, but you can get 50 amp out of the Delta Pro Ultra or the Delta Pro 3. All right, there is a new double voltage hub that's 50 amp, and I'm going to pull up an image on a video we did for the Delta Pro Ultra accessories, and we had the double voltage hub, the 50 amp double voltage hub in there. I'll put a link in the video description. We're going to talk more about accessories later, but think about it. You can take two Delta Pro Ultras or two Delta Pro 3s and get 50 amp service. Is that insane? Now, let me continue on with 240 volt now. So another way you can get 240 volts with the Delta Pro is if you get yourself a smart home panel and connect two Delta Pros. I have a video here if you want. I'll put a link in the video description. But, you know, that's kind of what we do at our home is we have two Delta Pros and then we actually have two extra batteries. All right. So that is another way you can get 240 volts besides the double voltage hub. Now, let me also say the Smart Home Panel 2 for the Delta Pro Ultra and the Delta Pro 3, you know, that'll give you 240 volts also. Again, the Delta Pro Ultra and the Delta Pro 3 already have 240 volts, but you can actually connect these to a smart home panel for home backup, which is pretty awesome. We just covered 240 volt, and I sure hope that information helped you. But check out this next slide. I didn't know this, and I actually learned it while making this video. Did you know that the Delta Pro Ultra, out of these three power stations, is the only one that can provide 120 volt and 240 volt at the same time? The Delta Pro can't do that, and the Delta Pro 3 cannot do that. So, pretty cool, and no wonder why the Delta Pro Ultra is the beast. We're going to take some time now and go over outlets, and then I'm going to really get into some of the, 30 amp, 240 volt outlets with some good information. So the Delta Pro actually has 4 AC outlets, as you can see here, 20 amp outlets, 120 volt. So it's got 4. Now you do have 4 on the Delta Pro Ultra, and then you do have 4 on the Delta Pro 3. So that's good news, right? Pretty much about the same. Now, what about USB? So obviously on the Delta Pro Ultra, you've got 2 USB Type A, 2 USB Type A fast charge, and then you've got 2 100 watt USB Type Cs. Really nice. Now, on the Ultra, your USB Type C is here. So you've got 2 100 watt with a nice cover, by the way. Actually, it's nice to keep the dust out. And then you get 2 USB Type A on the Ultra, all right? And these are actually just 12 watts, just so you'll know. They're not fast charge. I don't know why they did that. I mean, again, something like this, you're probably not going to use USB too much, to be honest with you. This is really a power backup for the home, And what about the Delta Pro 3? Well, the Delta Pro 3's got 2 USB Type-C 100 watt and then 2 fast charge USB Type-A, and those are 18 watts. So that's really good. So as you can see, you got everything that you need with these. Now, we are going to actually dig in, and let me just do one more thing. The only one of these power stations now that actually has a car charge port, right, where you can plug in a car charger, is the Delta Pro. That's it. So right here on the side, All right, let me see if I can get a good look for you there. All right, big heavy boy, but there it is. That is a car charge outlet. You do not have that in the Ultra, and you do not have that in the Pro 3. So just be aware. We are going to now dig in and go over some of these high-powered outlets. You ready? All right, here's a slide showing the Delta Pro, the Pro Ultra, and the Pro 3. And all three of these actually have a NEMA TT30. Now, what is a TT30 used for? RV owners seem to use these in many of the RVs that are out there. And this is 120 volt, 30 amp. And let's take a quick look at where they're located on each of these power stations. Let's go ahead and take a look at these TT30, NEMA TT30. So on the Delta Pro, it's right here in the front. Again, 30 amp. On the Delta Pro Ultra, right under here. There you go. And on the Delta Pro 3, right there in the side door on the left-hand side. Now let's talk about the NEMA L1430R. As you can see, the Delta Pro doesn't have it, but the Ultra does and the Pro 3 does. Now this is commonly used to connect generators. It's 120 volt or 240 volt, 30 amp. Let's go ahead and take a look at where it's located on these two power stations. Again, Delta Pro doesn't have this L1430, but the Ultra does, right here. There it goes, 240 or 120 volt. And what about the Delta Pro 3? It's right in the front, actually. There it goes. Next outlet is called the NEMA 6-20R. Now, as you can see, the Delta Pro 3 is the only one that has it. Commonly used for water pumps and some dryers. This is a 240 volt, 16.7 amp outlet. Let's take a look. Again, the Delta Pro and the Delta Pro Ultra don't have the 6-20R. But the Pro 3 does. Check it out, right there in the front. 240 volt. Very nice. And what about an Anderson port? Well, as you could see, all three power stations have an Anderson port, commonly used for campers, caravans, and RVs. Now, the Delta Pro, it's 12 volt, 30 amp. The Ultra is 12.6 volt, 30 amp. And the Pro 3 is 12.6 volt, 30 amp. Let's take a look at where these are located. All right, on the Delta Pro, it's right here on the side, right there on the top. As you can see, 12 volt, 30 amp. Now, what about the Ultra? Well, it's right here. All right, 12.6 volt, 30 amp. And the Delta Pro 3. What about that one? There it goes. And again, rated 12.6 volt, 30 amp. Now it doesn't say that on there, but it says it in the spec sheet. So hopefully that's still correct. But yeah, you have Anderson on all three of these power stations. Next outlet isn't used as much, and it's called a barrel plug, a DC 5521. Now, the Delta Pro has it, and the Delta Pro 3 has it. Now, on the Pro, it's 12 volt, 3 amp. On the Pro 3, it's 12 volt, 5 amp, as you can see. You get one on the Pro 3, you get two on the Delta Pro. These are used for like small electronics, Wi-Fi routers, etc. Again, a 12 volt port. Let's take a look at where these are located. Starting off with the Delta Pro, it is in this panel again, as you can see. If we go down there, we got 12 volt, 3 amp max right there. Let's take a look. And again, not in the Pro Ultra, but it is actually on the Pro 3. And there's only one, but it's 12 volt, 5 amp. Let's continue on with specifications. Let's talk about AC charging now. It's interesting because these, all three of these are similar in the sense with charging. Now it changes when you add batteries, it changes when you add smart home panel, but let's just talk about the units themselves. So the Delta Pro can charge at 1800 watts, 120 volt, 15 amp. That is the same for the Ultra, and that is the same for the Pro 3. Now let's take a moment and talk about other ports on these power stations. So the Delta Pro has what they call an infinity port, and that is again an AC in and out port, but it is an infinity port that can be used for EV charging, that can actually be used for the smart home panel. And then the Delta Pro Ultra and the Delta Pro 3 have what they call a power in and out port. Again, it is an AC in and out port. So you can add gas generators, you can do EV charging, you can connect to the smart home panel too. Let's take a look at those ports real quick. So here is the infinity port right here for the Delta Pro. Now, there's three uses for this actually. One is the double voltage hub. So you connect two Delta Pros to get 240 volt. You can do EV charging, and you can also connect to the smart home panel. Well, here's the Delta Pro Ultra. Let me zoom in and show you the power in and out port. This drops down and slides in, by the way. I love that. So there's an EV charging cable that connects to this. There's a gas generator cable that connects to this. There's that 50 amp double voltage hub that would connect to this. And of course, the smart home panel. So this is new, and yeah, really nice. Here is the back of the Delta Pro 3. Let me zoom in, and you can see we've got the AC in and out port. And that's it. And again, there's an EV charging cable, there's a gas generator cable, there's the 50 amp double voltage hub, and the smart home panel too. So that's really nice. Continuing on with detailed specs, every nook and cranny. So EV charging, we talked about it a moment ago, but I just want to let you know that there is a cable available for the Ultra and the Pro 3. And there's an adapter available for the Pro. Now we're going to show this in the accessory section. We're going to go over EV charging in a little more detail. Now there is also an EcoFlow smart app for all three of these, and you can control them via Bluetooth if you're local, or you can control them via Wi-Fi. So if I am in another country and my system is on and connected to my Wi-Fi at home, I can control them. I can turn on AC, I can control DC. You know, so there's a lot of things that you can do. Connectivity. So the Delta Pro's got Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. The Delta Pro 3 has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. The Delta Pro Ultra actually has Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and a 4G dongle available. And that means you can put 4G in this. And again, we'll show this later on. We'll talk about it. But you can have this in the middle of nowhere and connect to it via 4G, which is amazing. Now let's talk about the weather rating. So the Delta Pro doesn't have any weather rating. The Delta Pro 3's battery pack is actually IP65, the actual battery pack. All right, and then when you go over to the Delta Pro Ultra, this system is IP54. I'm going to put an image up explaining IP54, and I'll also put an image up explaining IP65, just so you have that. So it's on the screen right now. Now let's talk about remotes or displays. So the Delta Pro actually has a remote control. So if you actually had the Delta Pro in the back of your EV, you could have this remote control via Bluetooth or even via Ethernet cable, and you can see it, you can turn things on, you can see how much battery you have left, so it's pretty good. Now the Ultra and the Pro 3 actually have a power insight. It's a home energy monitor. Now we did a small video on this. I'll put an image up right here so you can see what it looks like, and we will put a link in the video description. But this is really when it comes down to home backup. All right, so the power insight's available. Now what about the dB rating? So the Delta Pro is the loudest out of all of them with an average of 58 dB. Now the Pro 3 is, they say it could be 30 dB or lower. I believe that's with under like a 2,000 watt load. And the same thing with the Ultra. This is actually the quietest. I mean, they're both amazingly quiet, but again, 30 dB or around there with under a 2,000 watt load. Now let's talk about weight. So the Delta Pro is 99 pounds and the add-on battery is 84 pounds. The Delta Pro 3 is 113.5 pounds and the add-on battery is 73 pounds. The Delta Pro, the inverter, is 70 pounds. So this unit here on the top is 70 pounds. The battery is 116.4 pounds. Let's now talk about the warranty on these. So the Delta Pro Ultra, you get a 5-year, and the battery is also a 5-year. The Delta Pro 3 is a 5-year, and the battery is a 5-year. Delta Pro, you actually get a 12-month warranty, and if you register, you'll actually get an extra 3 years for a total of 5 years. Same thing for the battery. So you need to make sure that you register, otherwise you're only going to have a 2-year. I don't know why they did that. And to be honest with you, when the Delta Pro first launched, it only had a 2-year. So it's kind of nice that you can get a 5-year warranty. You just got to remember, register your battery, register your power station, and then you'll have a 5-year. All right? Let's now talk a little bit more about the add-on batteries. We're going to start off with the Delta Pro add-on battery right here. MSRP is $2,799. It is August 2024. This is now selling for about $1,500 to $1,800. So links will be in the description. I still have these. I love them. Capacity on the battery, 3,600 watt hours or 3.6 kilowatt hours. Now, cycles, 3,500 cycles, and then it goes to 80%. Again, a cycle is when you go from 100% down to 0, and that basically would be one cycle. So again, 3,500 cycles, and then you have 80% capacity left on the battery. Now the cable here, this cable is about 2.5 feet and very stiff. Again, go back to design earlier in the video if you want to see how this connects. Weather rating, the battery doesn't have any weather rating. The weight, 84 pounds or 38 kilograms. And the warranty on the battery is 2 years. If you register it, you'll get in 3 additional years for a total of 5 years. But you got to register it, otherwise you'll only have 2 years. Now let's talk about the Delta Pro 3. So battery cost MSRP $2,599. Now the capacity on this is 4,096 watt hours or 4 kilowatt hours. Think about that. You're getting more battery here and it actually is costing less. Now cycles, this battery has 4,000 cycles and then it'll go to 80% left. The cable length here is about 3 feet. Again, we did show this cable earlier in design, how we connected it and everything. So if you want to take a look at that. The IP rating, the weather rating on the battery, only the battery, is IP65. I will put an image up on the screen so you know what IP65 looks like. And then let's go ahead and talk about the Delta Pro Ultra battery. So this is MSRP $3,299. Huge, heavy battery, very big. 6,144 watt hours or 6 kilowatt hours, right? Cycles, 3,500 cycles, and then it goes to 80%. Also, these batteries here, the Delta Pro 3 and the Ultra, are EV grade. The Delta Pro is not. Cable length is 10 inches. It just connects to the side. We showed you that earlier in design. Now, what about a weather rating? This is actually, the battery and the inverter is IP54. I'll put something up on the screen to explain IP54. And what about weight? Well, the battery is 116.4 pounds or 52.7 kilograms. It also comes with a 5-year warranty. Now it is time to talk about EPS or UPS. EPS stands for Emergency Power Supply, and UPS stands for Uninterrupted Power Supply. Now, the Delta Pro is the only one that has an EPS, and the reason why is it's just not fast enough to be labeled a UPS. And realistically, if you're in the computer industry, you probably know UPSs are usually 5 milliseconds or faster. But that is 30 milliseconds if you use it as a UPS. I mean, excuse me, a EPS. Now, the Delta Pro 3 is now 10 milliseconds. So they've really beefed that one up. But let's talk a little bit about the Delta Pro Ultra. This is amazing. Did you know the Delta Pro Ultra has 2 inverters? And because it does, one of them is 20 milliseconds. The other one is 0. Let's take a look at the outlets real quick. I got to show you this. Okay, so let's get into this here. So I want you to see that this says backup UPS, online UPS, and online UPS. So let's look at the first one. So this backup UPS is going to be 20 milliseconds. This is going to be 0. It's connected to the other inverter. And guess what? A 30 amp, 120 volt that's actually on UPS 0. So these are 0 UPS. This is 20 milliseconds. Isn't that crazy? All right, let's talk solar. Solar gets interesting, and the reason why it does is because when you connect it to a smart home panel, things change. So let's just talk about solar from the actual unit itself. Then we'll actually take a moment and look at some ports. So Delta Pro has one XT60i, so it's one input. You could do 1,600 watts of solar in that unit. 11 to 150 volt, 15 amp. Now, if you connect it to a smart home panel and you have 2 Delta Pros, well, each one can do 1,600 watts of solar. So that's 3,200 watts of solar. And guess what? You can connect this now also to the Smart Home Panel 2 as long as you use the new double voltage hub, the power in and out. And again, you can get 3,200 watts of solar. Again, 1,600 watts each. 11 to 150 volt, 15 amp on each side. Pretty cool. Now, Delta Pro 3, well, there she goes. Let's talk about that. So you've got 2 inputs. I'm going to show you that in a minute. It is amazing. They have 2 separate XT60s. All right. So the max is going to be 2,600 watts of solar. So one is going to handle 1,000 watts, 11 to 60 volt, 20 amp. The other, 1,600 watts of solar, 30 to 150 volts, 15 amp max. Now, if you connect the Delta Pro 3 to a Smart Home Panel 2, you can actually have up to 3 Delta Pro 3s. And guess what? You can do 7,800 watts of solar. Is that pretty cool? All right, here's where it gets a little interesting. We're going to talk about the Delta Pro Ultra. Now, the Delta Pro Ultra has 2 inputs. that can handle 5,600 watts on a single unit. One of them, it will handle 1,600 watts. It's 30 volt, 30 to 150 volt, 15 amp. The other one is 4,000 watts, 80 to 450 volts, 15 amp. Now, when you connect 3 of these to the smart home panel, okay, the smart home panel 2, I should say, you can get 16,800 watts of solar capacity coming in to your smart home panel, because each of them will handle 5,600 watts. Is that insane? All right, here's the input for solar in the back. As you can see, it is an XT60i. It's got the extra connector, handling 11 to 150 volts, 15 amp. Now we'll look at the Ultra real quick. So in the front, you'll see there's a low PV. All right, I'll zoom in so you can see that. So that is actually a low PV, 30 to 150 volt, 15 amp. And it is a special cable that they give you. So that's pretty interesting. Now, if we go around all the way here, this is going to be the high PV port. We'll drop that. We'll zoom in a little bit. Okay, but there you go. That is the big boy there. 4,000 watts, 80 to 450 volt, 15 amp. And it even has its own switch. So you connect the cable directly and you turn it on. And it's on right now, actually. Let's talk about solar with the Delta Pro 3, the newest in the family. So you'll see there's 2 inputs. Now let me zoom in a little bit because there's a little different story here. So this one actually supports car charging. This one doesn't. So this has a pin, if you could see. So this is the XT60i, and that's just a regular XT60. This is low PV, 11 to 60 volt, 20 amp. Now, not even the Ultra is 20 amp. And on this side, you have 30 to 150 volt, 15 amp. So you can have both of these and have 2,600 watts of solar coming in. All right, it's time to talk about EV charging. Now, we're going to start off with the Delta Pro, and I'll also show you where it actually plugs in. So the Delta Pro is level 1 and level 2 compatible, 3,400 watts max. Now let me go ahead and show you the input real quick. On the Delta Pro, you're going to use the Xfinity port right here on the side. We're going to show you the adapter later in the accessories section, and links will be in the description, but that's where it plugs in for EV charging. Next up is the Delta Pro 3. So the Delta Pro 3 is level 1 and 2 compatible. Now this one supports up to 4,000 watts, which is interesting. Let's take a look at the port real quick. All right, so this is the magical AC in and out port right here. This goes down, you plug in this special adapter that actually is an EV Xtreme Adapter. That will be shown in the accessory section, but that's where you plug in and charge up to 4,000 watts of EV charging. Lastly, the Delta Pro Ultra. This is a beast. Level 1 and level 2 compatible, 7,200 watts max of EV charging. And let me just show you the plug real quick. And of course, it is that amazing power in and out port that's used for many things. And there is a special EV Xtreme adapter we're going to show you in the accessory section later on. Isn't that sweet? 7,200 watts. We're now going to go over expansion and home backup options. I should cover almost every scenario. We're going to start off, of course, with the Delta Pro. So with the Delta Pro, you can attach 2 batteries to the unit, right? So we're just talking single unit expansion. So 2 batteries, and that would give you a total battery capacity of 10,800 watt hours or 10 kilowatt hours. Now, when you go to the Delta Pro 3, obviously the batteries are larger. Again, you can do 2 batteries with the Delta Pro 3, and as you can see, they stack on top. That's a really nice feature. You're talking now 12,288 watt hours or 12 kilowatt hours. Now, the story changes obviously with the Delta Pro Ultra, because you can stack 5 of these batteries underneath that unit. All right, 5 of these batteries. So when you talk about expanding the single inverter, we're now looking at 30,720 watt hours or 30 kilowatt hours. Is that crazy? All right, so that's a single unit battery expansion. Continuing on with expansion, I'm going to talk about this original double voltage hub. I'll put an image up right there so you could see it. That's actually a video that we did. And again, we showed this earlier, but we tested a dryer at over 5,000 watts. Now, we're just talking about the Delta Pro for now, because the Delta Pro is the only one that's compatible with the older double voltage hub. Basically, you connect 2 Delta Pros. It actually connects to the side right there, the infinity port. And basically, you now double your power. Think about that. So you have 7,200 watts with 240 volt capability at 30 amps. All right. Now, if you put all the batteries on it as well, you're talking about 21,600 watt hours. Because again, you've got 2 power stations. Each power station has 2 batteries on it. So 7,200 watts, 240 volt, 30 amp, and again, 21,600 watt hours. Pretty interesting. Now they came out with another double voltage hub to make the Delta Pro compatible with the Smart Home Panel 2. We did a short video on it. I'm going to show you the image. And again, we will make sure these links are going to be in the description. This is a big video, so we're going to have a lot of links in the description. So you're going to need to scroll down, but that's what it looks like. And so you can, again, take 2 Delta Pros, right? Connect it now to this new double voltage hub. And it's called the input-output double voltage hub, just so you'll know. And that basically allows you to connect it to the Smart Home Panel 2, 7,200 watts, 240 volt, 30 amp. And again, you can have 2 batteries on each Delta Pro for 21,600 watt hours. All right. Continuing on with expansion and home backup, as a reminder, we are going to have visuals. I'm going to have some images come up later on showing you the expansion options, and we're going to even go over accessories later on coming up. Let's talk a little bit about this new 50 amp double voltage hub. Now, it's not compatible with the Delta Pro. It's compatible with Ultra and Pro 3. Let's talk about what it does when you combine 2 Delta Pro 3s with a 50 amp hub. You're going to get 50 amp, 8,000 watts, 120 volt or 240 volt. And when you have 4 batteries, right, because you're going to have 2 batteries on one Delta Pro 3 and 2 batteries on another, you're going to now have 24,576 watt hours. Think about that. 50 amp power, 8,000 watts, and 24,576 watt hours. That is nice. But now, what about the Delta Pro Ultra? This is, again, going to continue to step up, and you're going to see this become one of the best home backup solutions. So now, 2 Delta Pro Ultras, right? You're going 50 amp, 12,000 watts now of power, 120 volt, 240 volt. But now you're going to have 10 extra batteries because each inverter will have 5 batteries underneath it. So now you're going to have 61,440 watt hours of battery capacity, or 61 kilowatt hours, right? So 50 amp, 12,000 watts, 61,440 watt hours. That is something. Now here's a home backup system, right? Let's say you want to do an inlet box or you want to do a transfer switch. And again, we're going to show some of these accessories later on. Let's start off with the Delta Pro. So you're going to have 3,600 watts, obviously, if you're doing, just a single unit. 120 volt, 30 amp. All right, just connecting one Delta Pro. All right. Now, if you do the double voltage hub and you actually connect it to an inlet box or a transfer switch, now you've got 240 volt, 30 amp, 7,200 watts, and because you can connect 4 batteries, right, you can have 21,600 watt hours Delta Pro. Now, what does that scenario look like with the Delta Pro 3? All right, so we can go, again, single Delta Pro 3 connected to an inlet box or a transfer switch. We're looking at 120 volt or 240 volt, right? Because that's a 240 volt system, 30 amp, 4,000 watts. And obviously you're going to have, 2 batteries on top. You'll have 12,207 watt hours. Not bad. But what if you want to connect that to the 50 amp double voltage hub and then connect to an inlet or a transfer switch? Well, there you're going to get 8,000 watts of power. All right. Now you can have 4 batteries, two on each Delta Pro 3, 24,576 watt hours. Again, 50 amp, 120 volt or 240 volt. That's on that one there. Now let's talk Ultra. So the Ultra, again, single unit connected to an inlet box or transfer switch, 7,200 watts. That's standard, with 5 batteries at 30,720 watt hours. 30 amp service, 120 volt to 240 volt right out of the box. But if you connect that to the 50 amp, right, now you have 12,000 watts of power. Obviously, at that point, you're going to have 10 batteries, right? Because you're going to have 2 connected. So it's 61,440 watt hours. That's crazy, right? 12,000 watts, 50 amp, 120 volt, 240 volt, 61,440 watt hours. That's amazing. Now we're going to talk about the Smart Home Panel, or the Smart Home Panel 2, the newer version. I want you to keep in mind, this is the ultimate home backup, first of all, right? This is something that has to be wired to your panel. But keep in mind, you don't have to go and buy all of the inverters and all the batteries. You can start off slow, so just keep that in mind. We're going to talk about Delta Pro now. And that's my setup downstairs. I actually have 14.4 kilowatts downstairs, right? Over 14,000 watt hours. So basically, when you connect the Delta Pro, as long as you have the 2 Delta Pros connected to the smart home panel, and let's say you add 2 batteries to each of the Delta Pros, you're going to get 7,200 watts, 240 volt also, as well as 120 volt, and 30 amp service. Battery capacity you're looking at is about 21,600 watt hours. Now it can go up to about 25 kilowatt hours if you add the smart generator. All right. Now, if we do Smart Home Panel 2 on the Delta Pro, we have to go out and buy this new double voltage hub. It's called the Power In and Out. I'm going to show you it in a little while with the accessories. Again, you'll get 7,200 watts, 30 amp, right? 240 volt, 120 volt, right? 21,600 watt hours. All right, so you can do it. You just have to buy the special double voltage hub. Now, what about the Delta Pro 3? Let's talk about that. So the Delta Pro 3 is compatible with the Smart Home Panel 2. And again, you can connect 2 of them. Actually, no, you can connect 3 of them, excuse me. So 3 Delta Pro 3s with 6 batteries, right? Because each of them is going to have 2 batteries. you're now looking at 12,000 watts, 120 volt, 240 volt, 30 amp service. Keep that in mind. But you're looking at 36,000 watt hours or 36 kilowatt hours. Now, if you add a smart generator, the new model, the 4000 model, which I'll show you in a little while, you can go up to 48,000 watt hours or 48 kilowatt hours. I mean, that's pretty insane. Let's now talk about Delta Pro Ultra. This is amazing. I mean, this is huge home backup, by the way. So listen, because this has plenty of options. So if you take a smart home panel 2 and you connect one inverter and 5 batteries, you'll get the 7,200 watts, 30 amp service, 120, 240 volt, right? You're going to have 30,720 watt hours with the 5 batteries, all right? Now, if you connect 2 inverters, 5 batteries each underneath, your actual power increases. You're now at 14,400 watts with 2 inverters, right? Now you're at 60 amp service, 60 amp, 120 volt, 240 volt. And now you have 10 batteries. You're at 61,440 watt hours. Let me say that again. 14,400 watts, 60 amp service, 61,440 watt hours. But wait, there's more. If you connect 3 inverters to the Smart Home Panel 2 on this Delta Pro Ultra and 15 batteries, 5 underneath each system, you can now have 21,600 watts, 90 amp service. Is that crazy? 90 amp service, and you'll have 92,160 watt hours of battery capacity. Let me repeat that. 21,600 watts. I just can't believe it. 90 amp service. Again, 120 volt, 240 volt with 92,160 watt hours. Insane, I must say. Let's go ahead and jump into ways to charge, and this can really help you make the decision on which of these power stations you want. So let's start off with AC charging, and I'm going to start off with the Delta Pro. So the Delta Pro can charge at up to 1,800 watts max on an AC outlet, okay, max, 120 volt, 15 amp, or 3,000 watts at 240 volt, 12.5 amp. Now, moving over to the Delta Pro 3, it's the same. 1,800 watts, 120 volt, 15 amp, and again, max 3,000 watts, 240 volt, 12.5 amp. And that is the same for the Delta Pro 3. And we're just talking single units. Just think about that for a minute, just a single unit, because things start to change as you add batteries, especially on these 2 units. All right, let's spend some time now and talk about car charging. So you can car charge the Delta Pro and you can car charge the Delta Pro 3 because they have XT60 outlets. So you can buy an XT60 car charger. You will not have that option, of course, on the Delta Pro Ultra. It doesn't have an XT60i, and it's really not made to use car charging. Because think about it, car charging, you're looking at around 100 watts, right? I mean, best case scenario, almost 200 watts. Let's spend a moment talking about solar, though. Solar is very interesting. So on the Delta Pro, you've got one input, the XT60i, that can handle up to 1,600 watts, 11 to 150 volt, 15 amp. All right? Now let's talk about the Delta Pro 3. Here, you've got 2 inputs. All right? So you can actually throw in a maximum of 2,600 watts of solar. Now, one input can handle 1,000 watts, 11 to 60 volts, 20 amp. And another can handle 1600 watts, 30 to 150 volt, 15 amp. And what about the Delta Pro Ultra? Well, this unit also has two inputs, all right, low PV, high PV, right? It can handle a maximum of 5,600 watts of solar as a single unit, and that actually increases. So you have one that can handle 1,600 watts, 30 to 150 volt, 15 amp, and another that can handle 4,000 watts, 80 to 450 volts, 15 amps. Is that something? Now you can also charge with a smart generator. EcoFlow has really three models, but their latest model, the Smart Generator 4000, and I'm going to put a picture on the screen so you can see what that looks like. We covered that in the accessory section also if you want more information. But keep in mind the Delta Pro Ultra is the only model that cannot be charged using a smart generator. And that's because it doesn't have the same extra battery port that the Delta Pro and the Delta Pro 3 have. All right? And you can go to the close look that we did in the beginning of the video. Now, keep in mind, there'll be an adapter that you'll need to use to connect the smart generator to the Delta Pro and the Delta Pro 3. I'll put a picture of what the smart generator adapter looks like right there. All right, and that adapter basically converts the extra battery port, allowing you to connect the smart generator. And the Smart Generator 4000 can actually charge the Delta Pro or the Delta Pro 3 up to 3,200 watts. So that's pretty interesting. Another way you can charge is using an EV charger. Keep in mind, with the Delta Pro, you'll need an EV adapter. With the Delta Pro Ultra and the Delta Pro 3, you'll need the EV cable. It's called an Xtreme EV charging cable that actually connects to the power in and out port on the Delta Pro Ultra and the Delta Pro 3. Now, these are level 1, level 2 compatible, not level 3. Level 3 would be a Tesla supercharger. Do not use a Tesla supercharger. You will damage your unit. But let's talk about, what the max, EV charging is. So the Delta Pro, up to 3,400 watts is what it can actually handle. Now the Delta Pro 3 can actually handle 4,000 watts. And the Delta Pro Ultra can actually handle up to 7,200 watts, which is pretty nice. One of the new ways you can charge these units is actually a new Alternator Charger that just came out. Now I will tell you, the Alternator Charger is not compatible with the Delta Pro Ultra. And again, it's because it doesn't have the same extra battery port that the Delta Pro and the Delta Pro 3 have. And that's the reason why. But this is a box that we covered in the accessory section that basically gets connected to the battery in your vehicle. So while you're driving, you can actually charge your power station in a van, in an RV, in a car, in a truck, right? So it's really nice. And this thing charges up to 800 watts. All right. And think about that. When you're on the road, it's really hard to set up solar and then actually put it back down, or plugging into a car charger, right? So again, Delta Pro and Delta Pro 3 can actually use this Alternator Charger. You will also need the Smart Generator adapter as well. I showed you previously. That's another picture of what that looks like. All right. And the last way you can actually recharge your unit is through your smart home panel. Now you can do it through the smart home panel, the original model with the Delta Pro. And the Delta Pro can also handle the Smart Home Panel 2 if you use the new double voltage hub. All right, you'll be able to connect it to the Smart Home Panel, and that will handle up to 3,400 watts. Now, if you connect the Delta Pro 3 to the Smart Home Panel 2, it can actually handle up to 4,000 watts. And the Delta Pro Ultra can actually handle up to 6,000 watts if it has one battery connected. If it has 2 or more batteries connected to it, it can actually handle up to 7,200 watts charged by the Smart Home Panel 2. We're going to continue on with expansion and home backup. And now I'm really going to just show you more of a visual. So as you can see, if you take one Delta Pro and you add 2 batteries, you'll have 10,800 watt hours. And you'll still have that 3,600 watts, 7,200 watt surge. Now let's go to the Pro Home Backup, right? All the way with a smart home panel and everything. Now you're talking 21,600 watt hours. Now don't forget, if you use the smart generators, you can get up to 25 kilowatt hours. But here you're going to have 7,200 watts. And you'll have 120 volt or 240 volt with a 30 amp service. All right. Here's just a bigger picture with the Delta Pro, just showing you if you had 1 unit, if you had 2, 2 batteries, all the way with the smart home panel. Let's go to the Delta Pro 3 expansion now and just talk about the single unit. Again, 2 batteries on top, you're talking 12,288 watt hours, 4,000 watts with an 8,000 watt surge. All right, pretty cool. Now, what if we go all the way and we max this out? Well, 3 Delta Pro 3s is going to give us 36,864 watt hours, 12,000 watts, and a 50 amp service. Now, what about the Pro Ultra? Well, let's start off with a single unit with 5 batteries. You're going to have 30,720 watt hours, 7,200 watts of power with a 10,800 watt surge, right? But now let's take this all the way. Now you're talking 3 Ultra inverters, 15 batteries, 92,160 watt hours. But now you're at 21,000 watts with a 90 amp service. Again, this is the top of the line when it comes to home backup by EcoFlow. And, take a look at this here. This is just a helpful image that shows you 1 battery, 2 batteries, 3, all the way to 5. We're now going to go into accessories, and then we'll go into individual accessories. So as you can see with the Delta Pro, it's got the remote in the upper right-hand corner. It has the EV charging adapter on the top. On the bottom right, it's got the 800 watt alternator charger. It's got the smart generators on the left side on the bottom, and it actually is compatible with both. And on the top left, you've got that smart generator adapter. Here's more on the Pro. So you've got the 2 hubs, the original double voltage hub and the new power in and out double voltage hub. Compatibility with Smart Home Panel 2 and Smart Home Panel and transfer switch. Here is the Delta Pro 3 accessories. Again, now we've got a 50 amp hub on the top left corner. Moving over to the right, you've got the 800 watt alternator charger. On the upper right, you've got the Power Insight Home Energy monitor. We'll talk about that. This is compatible with Smart Home Panel 2, transfer switches, again, both gas generators, and you're going to need that adapter in the upper left-hand corner, the smart generator adapter. And then in the middle, 2 cables. One of them is for the EV charger, and one of them is a gas generator one as well. Here's a Delta Pro Ultra accessories. So again, upper left-hand corner, you've got the Smart Insight Home Energy monitor. We're going to go over that a little bit more later on. You've got a transfer switch in the upper middle section. As we go to the bottom left, you've got a 4G dongle. Next to the 4G dongle, as we go to the middle bottom, you've got the 800 watt alternator charger. And then on the left side, you've got that 50 amp hub. All the way to the right side, we've got the new trolley. So if you do need to move this around, the trolley would be the best bet. We'll show you that in a little while. We've got the Smart Home Panel 2, and then again in the upper right-hand corner, you've got 2 cables. One is the EV charging cable, and one is the gas generator cable. I'm going to bring up a slide now. We're going to go over the first accessory. This is the smart generator adapter. MSRP is $69. What is this used for? Well, if you have a Delta Pro or a Pro 3 and you want to connect it to the smart generator, right? And obviously this covers the newest model, the 4000, which we're going to show you later, and the normal current one, which is, they're both dual fuel, gas and propane. But what it does is it connects to the battery port, allowing you to connect the smart generator to the back. This also enables the new 800-watt alternator charger. So if you want to use that, you'll also need the smart generator adapter. Again, it isn't compatible with the Delta Pro Ultra. Again, product links will be in the video description, but let me show you this real quick. So we now have a Delta Pro, and here's the battery port, right? So we've got two battery ports. Keep in mind the battery port on a Delta Pro is the same on a Delta Pro 3. So that is why you need this adapter if you want to connect a smart generator, because it's going to connect to that and it's going to give us this connector. I think this is an XT150 if I remember correctly. I'll put a note on the screen. But when you do that, right, and by the way, this locks in with a little clip. Push it in, it locks in. I can now connect the cable that comes with the smart generator, which is going to be this. This now connects here. And you got to push it in. And now you can connect it to a smart generator. Again, same on the Delta Pro 3 as the Delta Pro. Here's the next accessory. It's an 800-watt alternator charger. And you're like, what is this? I don't understand. You know, EcoFlow just came out with this. And the reason why they did is because when people are driving somewhere, or they're camping, or they're going somewhere, it's really hard to charge. If you find solar, you're still limited. And you really don't have access to an AC outlet. And you don't want to bring a large, heavy, dual fuel gas generator. So this actually connects to your alternator. This is $599. It'll charge many of the Deltas, not all, many of the Deltas up to 800 watts while you're driving. And it is compatible with the Delta Pro and Pro 3 in this scenario, plus many other EcoFlow Delta products. Again, enables the ability to charge your Delta Pro and Delta Pro 3. Now, it is not compatible with the Delta Pro Ultra, keep in mind, because the Delta Pro Ultra doesn't have the same battery port. Now, the link will be in the video description, and we're going to take a look at this right now. So here is the 800-watt alternator charger right here. By the way, we did just a quick introduction. I will put the image up right here, and I will include the video link as well if you want to check that out. A little bit more information, but here it is. And what happens is, this is the connection port for the Delta product. This connects to your car, and this gets mounted somewhere in the back. It's not using this cable, but it's using a very similar cable. You will need this adapter, which I don't know if it comes with the alternator charger, to be honest with you. But you will need this because you're going to convert your Delta Pro or your Delta Pro 3 in order to take this connection and connect there. And they give you the cable and everything, so don't worry about it. This is just a unit. All right, $599. We'll put the links in the video description. Here they are. This is the dual fuel Smart Generator 4000. This just launched. So this is one of two smart generators they have now. MSRP is $17.99, compatible with the Pro and the Pro 3. Mainly, again, in this scenario. Of course, it's compatible to other Deltas, but we are not talking about the other Deltas in this video. You can get up to 3,200 watts when you're using the gas generator side, 2,900 watts if you're using the propane side. And you can, if you do X boost, you can get up to 4,000 watts. But keep in mind, you got to be careful if you're using X boost because it's really mainly compatible with certain types of products. The engine is a 4-stroke engine, 196 cc. It uses unleaded gas, 6 liter, 1.58 gallon. On the full load, it's 70 dB on a full load. It weighs 83 pounds or 38 kilograms. Again, it is not compatible with the Delta Pro Ultra because the Delta Pro Ultra doesn't have the same battery port. I will put links in the description for this. Now here is really a current model that's been around for a while. Again, it is dual fuel. It's MSRP at $15.99. And again, compatible with the Pro and the Pro 3 and a few other Delta products. This one's 1,800 watts gas, 1,900 watts peak, by the way. You can probably get this on sale because it's a little older model, but it'll be around for a while. Propane, you can get about 1,600 watts. Peak 1,700 watts. This weighs 67.2 pounds or 30 kilograms. It is a gas, the gas side is single cylinder, 4-stroke, unleaded gas. It's got a smaller tank, so this is a 1.05 gallon tank with an 80 cc engine. And the sound is about 56 to 67 dB range. Again, not compatible with the Delta Pro Ultra. We'll put links in the description for this. Again, this is probably on sale. Next up is the Delta Pro Remote Control. This is $99 MSRP. It is only compatible with the Delta Pro. It connects via Bluetooth or Ethernet cable. And this is made to monitor your energy, your remaining battery time. You can turn off AC. You can turn on AC and DC. This is not compatible with the Delta Pro 3 or the Ultra. And let me just show you kind of what it looks like. We'll go downstairs and show you side by side. And here it is. And we're connected via Bluetooth. Now you can connect via Ethernet, USB Type-C also, and Bluetooth. It takes 3 AA batteries. I took the cover off for now. It is mountable, so you can mount this as well. And as you can see here, I can turn AC on. I can turn AC off. I can turn DC on. DC off. I can turn the power of the unit off. Now all I did in this case was just dim the display. Press it again and it turns it back on. Now if I hold this, I believe it will shut the unit off. So it's a nice accessory to have, and it depends on your situation. We'll put some product links in the video description. Let me bring up another slide and let's go over the power inside. This is a home energy manager. MSRP is $399. It is compatible with the Delta Pro 3 and the Delta Pro Ultra. I'm going to show you this in a minute. It's got a 10-inch touch display. It tracks solar generation, energy consumption. It even tracks and displays your battery's charge and discharge levels. This will also send you a storm warning 24 hours in advance and fully charge your batteries in preparation. Again, keep in mind this is not compatible with the Delta Pro, and we will put a link in the video description if you want to purchase this, but let's take a look at it. There it goes. 10-inch display, right? Again, tracks solar generation, energy consumption. I love that feature where if it gets a storm warning, it actually fully charges your batteries in advance for preparations. I like that. Again, $399. If you want to learn more about this, I will put an image up on the screen right here, and I'll put a link in the video description if you want to check it out and learn a little bit more. And product links will be in the video description as well. And here's the next slide. This is a Delta Pro EV adapter. If you want to take your Delta Pro on the road and then actually pull over to a level 1 or level 2 EV charging station, the connection type is J1772, and MSRP is $99, by the way. Only compatible with the Delta Pro. It connects to the Infinity port on the side of the unit, and you can charge up to 3,400 watts. Again, not compatible with the Delta Pro 3 or the Ultra. Let's take a look at this, and then I'm going to bring this downstairs and show you how it connects. There's a quick look. There's a J1772. All right, level 1 or level 2 compatible. And there is the Infinity. That's the locking pin. All right, so let's show you how this connects to the Delta Pro. All right, we're back at the Delta Pro. We're going to go ahead and show you how this EV charger plugs in. So here's your Infinity port. Let me just kind of zoom in a little bit there so you could see. So that's the Infinity port. This is how it connects. And then it'll give you the J1772 on the other side. So you take this, it's got the locking pin. Now it's locked into place. Now you just have to connect your EV charging cable, level 1 or level 2, up to 3,400 watts. Pretty sweet. Don't forget, product links will be in the video description. Next slide is on the Delta Pro double voltage hub. Now this is the original double voltage hub, and there is a new one we'll go over in a minute. MSRP is $139. This is only compatible with the Delta Pro. And ultimately you double your capacity, right? I mean, you go from 3,600 watts to 7,200 watts by connecting two Delta Pros via the Infinity port. All right, and then you can get that 240 volt, by the way, which is nice. So 7,200 watts, 240 volt. Again, not compatible with the Delta Pro 3 or the Ultra because they don't have Infinity ports. And we'll put a link in the description if you want to pick one of these up. Now let's check out the next one, which is the Delta Pro double voltage hub. But this is called the power in and out. Why? Because it makes a Delta Pro compatible with the Smart Home Panel 2. So if you've had Delta Pros and you never got a Smart Home Panel and you want the newest Smart Home Panel, well now you just buy this hub. MSRP is $159. We'll have a link in the description. It enables the ability to connect two Delta Pros to the Smart Home Panel 2. And you go from 3,600 watts to 7,200 watts. And you can have two batteries on each of those deltas. So you can have 21,600 watt hours, okay? Not compatible with the Pro 3 or the Ultra. Again, they don't have Infinity ports. We'll have a link in the description if you want to pick this up. Next slide, we're going to talk about two cables, the gas generator and the EV charging cables. We'll start off with the EV charging cable. MSRP is $99. Keep in mind, it is only compatible with the Delta Pro 3 and the Delta Pro Ultra. You'll get a max charging rate of 7,200 watts on the Pro Ultra. On the Pro 3, you can go up to 4,000 watts of EV charging. Your connector, we're going to show you this cable, by the way. The connector is a J1772. It is level 1 and level 2 compatible. 120 volt, 240 volt, and it is about 1.6 feet long. And let's take a look at that real quick. So here's the cable, and this connects to the power in output port. I'll show you that. I'll show you that on the Delta Pro Ultra in a minute. And the other side will give you the J1772. So about 1.6 feet long. And you can now EV charge the Ultra at up to 7,200 watts and the Pro 3 at up to 4,000 watts. All right, now what about the next cable, the gas generator cable? Let me bring up the slide again. So the gas generator cable is $69. The EV cable is $99. So the gas generator cable connects to the power in and out port, just like the EV cable. And it has an L1430P connection that is compatible with most gas generators. It's about 1.6 feet long. Again, it is only compatible with the Delta Pro Ultra and the Delta Pro 3, not the Delta Pro. And let's take a look at this one. So as you can see, we have both cables side by side. This is the EV cable. This is the gas generator cable. So there's where you have that L1430P, right? As you can see, it actually has that lock. So you have to twist lock. All right, 30 amp. And on the other side, power in and output port. So we'll go downstairs and we'll just connect one of these just so you could see how they connect. Don't forget, we'll have product links in the video description. Here we are, Delta Pro Ultra, but don't forget, the Pro 3 has the same power in and output port, all right? So just keep in mind, that's a really nice upgrade. So you take this, you drop it down, and now you've got that adapter that will connect, obviously, for your gas generator or for your EV charger. And all you do, and let's just connect the one of these, you just kind of push it in. You hear it lock. And then if I zoom in a little bit, I want you to see that it actually has a little screw. So you can turn that screw to lock it. And then to release it, you just push this in, you grab it, close your port, and there you go. Next accessory is a 4G dongle for the Delta Pro Ultra. Now this is currently sold out, but the link will be in the description and you can click it and check on it from time to time. MSRP is $99. Now again, this is only compatible with the Delta Pro Ultra. And this is 2G, 3G, and 4G LTE. It does not support 5G, so the fastest you'll get is 4G LTE, which is around in most areas. You'll get a data SIM card from your provider, all right? You'll have to go to them and say, I just want a data SIM card, and some of the providers out there do that. Again, this is not compatible with the Delta Pro or the Delta Pro 3. So here it is. Now, obviously, this is just a test SIM card, but it plugs into USB Type A, and it opens up so that you can get access to putting a SIM card in right there. All right, and then you put it back in, locks in place, and let's take a look and see where this goes on the Delta Pro Ultra. So here we are with the Delta Pro Ultra. And where does the dongle go? Well, guess what? It goes right here. Check this out. Boom. And that's it. And you can get 4G service almost anywhere. Pretty cool. Next slide is on the Smart Home Panel 2. This is MSRP is $18.99. It is compatible with the Pro 3, and the Pro Ultra. Now I want you to see on this slide that if you had a Delta Pro, 2 of them, and 2 batteries on each of the Delta Pros, you can get up to 7,200 watts, 120 and 240 volts, with a battery capacity of 21,600 watt hours. Now on the Pro 3, you can have 12,000 watts max, 120 volt or 240 volt with 48,000 watt hour battery capacity. Now look at the Pro Ultra. If you have 3 Pro Ultras with 5 batteries underneath each of them, you can have 21,000 watt max and 92,160 watt hour battery capacity. I mean, this is insane. Max current's 100 amp, 120 amp bus bar. It's got 12 circuits. Now, we don't have this one, but we'll have links in the description if you want to purchase this and configure it. But really nice. Now, here's the original smart home panel. Still available, by the way. MSRP is $15.99. You'll probably find this on sale. We will have links in the video description if you want to purchase it. It is only compatible with the Delta Pro. And obviously, it's 7,200 watts. It supports up to 25 kilowatt hours, 120 and 240 volt. It'll control up to 10 of your circuits, 15 amp, 20 amp, and 30 amp. Now you can charge your Delta Pros from solar. You can even charge it from the panel. Warranty is 5 years. It is not compatible, again, with the Delta Pro 3 or the Ultra. Again, we'll have links in the description. Let's take a quick peek at this. I have this in my basement. And here is our smart home panel. As you can see, it's connected to our main panel. And we don't have our Delta Pros down here right now because we're actually showing you them in the video. But as you can see, we've got 10 circuits, all right? Out of about the 18 circuits that we have in the panel, we've got 10 here. We chose them as we were getting it installed. So that's pretty nice. Again, it's got a reset button on here if any of these actually trip. And you can connect the cables up here, or you can connect the cables down here. These are the Xfinity cables. They're longer to connect to the Xfinity ports on your Delta Pros. And you got a power button for this one, a power button for this one. And if you want to pause the power station, you have a button here. That shows grid power. And then that actually shows that this is on, and that shows that this is on as well, excuse me. So here are your power buttons. So yeah, you could run automations and stuff like that. Charged by solar, pretty darn cool. All right, the next slide is coming up. We have the Delta Pro Ultra Trolley. Now, this is sold separately. It's $299 MSRP. This can handle 180 pounds. Now this can work, but with one battery and one inverter. That is it. That is it. It will not hold any more. It's not made for it. The warranty's 2 years, and it only works for the Ultra. Now, I use this, honestly, to move the Ultra around because it's pretty heavy. I also like that you can angle the Ultra, tilt it, stuff like that. I do like that. So let's take a look at that. Well, there's the trolley. Again, this thing holds up to 180 pounds. One inverter, one battery, okay? It's got a handle, so it can actually be in a position, and I'm going to take the Delta Pro and I'm going to put it on here, excuse me, the Delta Pro Ultra, and put it on here. It actually has locking brackets, all right? But this is beefy, it's strong. And if you need to move it around, you can. Keep in mind you're over 200 pounds with a battery and an inverter. But let me show you what this looks like with the battery and inverter. There it goes. That's actually before. That's the one that you get in the box. But let's see what it looks like now with the trolley. And there it goes on the heavy-duty trolley. Now, there are two brackets, one on this side. And this is a larger bracket. It gets connected up here, and then it gets screwed on down there. So this holds this whole side where the outlets are, okay? And let me show you the other side. The other bracket really just kind of goes on this handle and then gets screwed in here. So this is really holding this in place really well. This handle pops out, allowing you to tilt the unit. And I'll show you this in a second. As you can see, the unit can stay in that position. You can move it around that way if you want. You can also put it in this position as well. It is a strong dolly. Next accessory is the 50 amp hub. MSRP is $299. This is only compatible with the Delta Pro 3 and the Delta Pro Ultra. You do have to have two Delta Pro 3s or two Delta Pro Ultras, and no, you cannot mix them. Now on the Pro 3, if you have two of them, you'll have 8,000 watts when connected to the 50 amp hub. 50 amp service, 120 volt, 240 volt with a maximum battery capacity of 24,576 watt hours. And yes, that's 4 batteries and of course 2 power stations. Now on the Delta Pro Ultra, you'll get 12,000 watts, 50 amp service, 120 volt or 240 volt with a maximum battery capacity of 61,440 watt hours. And yeah, that's 10 batteries, 5 on each Delta Pro Ultra. Again, not compatible with the Delta Pro, and product links will be in the video description if you want to purchase this item. Well, there it goes, and that's the box it comes in. It is packed, and I'll go ahead and unbox it so you can actually see what's included. And there you go. So we've got our 2 cables, and these connect obviously to here, and I'll show you this in a second, and then they connect to the Delta Pro Ultra, or they connect to the Delta Pro 3. All right, again, not Delta Pro compatible. But this is mountable, and you do get screws in the box. As you can see, it's mountable on both sides. And you've got your power button right there. Obviously here you're going to be showing your power as well. And here's your power in and output. So again, this is where the cables that are down here connect to. And then this goes to your transfer switch, or it goes to your inlet box. And yeah, look at that, 50 amp service, 120/240 volt. Very, very nice accessory. The next option, what about a transfer switch? This is an EcoFlow transfer switch compatible with Pro, Pro 3, and Pro Ultra. And it's $399. So here is some information on XBoost. Now I won't be reading this to you. There are 3 slides that are going to come up. One is they're going to describe what XBoost is. The next one's going to describe how it works. And the last one is going to just give you some notes. This was captured from the EcoFlow website on August of 2024. And there is the link at the bottom if you want to go to it as well, as long as it's still available. But just be careful using XBoost. Make sure you're knowledgeable about it before you do. And keep in mind, it is enabled, so you might want to disable it until you learn more. And you have to disable it using the EcoFlow app. These next couple of slides are going to be about storage and maintenance. Now, all I did, just so you'll know, is I went online to the online user manuals and I grabbed the maintenance. The first slide you're going to see is the Delta Pro. Right after that, you're going to see another slide for the Delta Pro 3. And then right after that, you're going to see 2 slides for the Delta Pro Ultra. One is going to be for the inverter. The other is going to be for the battery. And keep in mind, this information is as of August 2024. Now, all you got to do is go to EcoFlow's website and click on Support, and then click on User Manual, and you'll see they have the online user manuals. Wow. Let me tell you, this video took a long time to make. As you can see, it's over 2 hours long. I hope you use the timestamps to look through it. My health isn't the same right now. I couldn't really move these around too much, so I did have some help. But guys, if this video helped you in any way, do me a favor and give us a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. All right. Also, share our video with your friends and your family. My social media is going to be right up top. If you want, click on social media. Don't click on it. Actually, follow us on our social media. Check out our new Tesla channel and subscribe if you want. It's at My Tesla Journey 1. And I'm going to put a video here on the right if you want to check that out. If you want to subscribe to our channel here at techmadeezy, go ahead and click that round logo right there. And you'll be able to subscribe and join our family. I sure hope you do. Send us a message. Let me know what you think of the video, and have a wonderful day.